Okay, this is just going to be a little guide on doing these dream sequences with all 10 idols on. The setup is pretty much the same for all 4 of them, so we'll just go over the loadout real quick. I'm going to be using the pike and the cannon. I believe the special for the Calamity rockets is one of the best. It has not a whole lot of damage, but the knockback on it is really good to push enemies off the map if you don't want to fight them. So for the pike, we're just going full melee setup. I really think the ignore armor is super useful. So if you like to go throwing for some reason, I still say pick up ignore armor. And for the cannon, we're going pretty much pure damage and attack speed. So we're grabbing knockback, charge up speed over radius. We're going damage over reload speed and more charge up speed over radius. This bottom one here is optional. I tend to not like the seek. The damage fields comes in handy, but the seeking can kind of make it hard to hit targets that you want to prioritize. If you have a bunch of squirts in your face and you're trying to hit something behind them, the tracking's going to make it impossible to hit it. And for our drinks here in the distillery, it's a mix between defensive and offensive. So we've got some health and crit and some reflect damage. Healing when you counter block, which will come in handy a little bit. It's not super mandatory, but it helps. Some damage resistance. The Zealous, a little bonus I like. It's not going to come in to play very often, but it is nice. Leech Aid is probably the most important one. The side effects obviously hurt, but because the idols make it so enemies don't drop tonics, we don't have a lot of them. This is a very, very good way to maintain a full health pool, especially some of the waves in the later levels will have really tanky enemies that you can go from no health to full health. So if you're going to grab any of these 100%, the Leech Aid is the most important. And the Champagne, it's probably not good to use. I like the damage, but you have no downs. If you lose all your health, that's it. You have to start back from the beginning. So I would take or leave this one. If you're pretty confident, take it. If not, that damage you'll miss the damage because the enemies do regenerate, but better safe than sorry, huh? And just showing everything's active. Really the main things, well, why we're using the spear is this Akobe here and this one here, this U-Drake. The hammer, you have to get way too close. You just constantly take damage from the 2 of these. So that's that. And we'll get into it right here. Alright, and we're going to go to the stock pot here. This is going to be the second little dream sequence. This is, it's all wilds enemies from that whole section of the game. So it's all plants and armored enemies. So the spear, again, very, very useful here. There's really, again, only one enemy in this whole arena that's going to cause some issues. And there's only 2 waves that you'll see it. So it's very, very self-explanatory until that enemy shows up. Something to not overlook, though, is that big center pillar. Some of the enemies aren't smart enough to walk around it, so you can get them stuck on it. And then with all the plants being ranged, it's a very safe place to line of sight. And because we're using the spear, here's a good example, it has enough range to actually go through it. So this center rock is very, very handy.
On condition they would never return to the terminals.
There's a couple waves like this where there's a lot of little birds. They don't do a bunch of damage. You just want to make sure you're not right under them when you kill them, because they drop those little grenades from the idols, and that damage adds up.
Way to reduce the risk of city secrets leaking out.
And then these enemies are a good example of why I bring the counter block for heals, because it's a free counter block when they're shooting that many projectiles at you.
Inside that city with no one but her father.
Those little bootlickers you just saw me kill, those are a big issue with the spear. Their little stuns are hard to break.
So we got a job working for the city's
so you want to get used to attacking those from range if you can. Obviously, if they spawn on you like that one did, you can't do much about it, but here's a good example of this center pillar. These lunkheads get stuck, and you can attack them right through it.
Her father told her nothing of her heritage. He told her nothing of the Mansers. It's for your own good, he said.
Right, and this is wave 14. So, wave 13, the next one coming up, is the first very dangerous wave. There's going to be a handful of ranged birds that don't do too much damage, and there's going to be one melee bird. He can two-hit you. I don't know if he's... There he is. Oh, I just got really lucky and counter-blocked him, but you want to focus him. Ignore the ranged birds when he spawns, because they don't do enough damage to justify attacking, because you get distracted from the melee bird and he can two-hit you. Oh, come on.
At first, she tried to be like other girls, but
you may end up with some lower health there,
father was an urban trader.
but the next two waves are very good for healing back up. There's some tanky enemies here. Get a handful of plants that take 2 hits, and that big guy there.
One young man stood up for her, or so he led her to believe. He knew much of her heritage.
But yeah, this is why the that squirt cider, I believe it is, to heal yourself on attacks is very, very, very useful. Okay, we just need a crit. There we go.
The young man convinced her to take him to a family den to meet her father. Spoke of how he wanted to meet a man from the terminals.
Another wave of birds. Same thing, just don't get surrounded too much and don't stand directly under them. Just, those grenades will hurt.
When the young man greeted her father in the Ura's native language, her father flew into a fit of rage and threw them out.
Wave 9. Okay, so the next wave is another bird wave. Get this guy from back here. And again, see, this center pillar, pretty useful.
The young man never told her
There's
that
going to
the Ura's
be
native language
3
is not to
of
be
those
used
melee
by
birds on
foreigners.
this wave.
To do so is a terrible insult.
You kind of want to just stand back and just hit them from a distance if you can, like that. There we go. That was the last
It was
seriously
then that she
dangerous
decided to
wave.
escape. The two of them could flee the city together and go to the Tassel terminals.
With 3 of those birds on the screen, can get killed almost instantly. And here's another trick, because the spear has armor piercing. You could just sit in a corner. It's a little slower, a little safer.
They would hide inside a garbage bin until it got ingested by a scumbag. Then let him slosh on out of the city for disposal.
And here's two smaller ankle gaiters. There's two ways to do this. Like this, have them both come up at the same time, or try and only have one come up at a time. And focus on him without getting them both the speed bonus.
But the authorities were already there when that scumbag sidled up to the city walls.
Did see that range bird in here somewhere. Yeah, these little birds, they're annoying. Just keep rolling.
Told him her father was using her to sell secrets to the Tassel terminals.
These are pretty easy to outrange. As you can see, I can't aim with a controller though, so.
She and her father were arrested for treason, but her father got a deal. Return to work for the Mansers, and she'd go free.
Oh, come
on. Before they parted ways for the last time, her father whispered a desperate plea. Hurry home to the den and lock yourself in.
Yeah, as soon as you can get past that wave 8 with the 3 melee birds, you should be fine. Honestly, that's the hardest wave. And they seem a little unfair, and it's very chance-based with the whole going immune or reflecting. So that wave alone can take a handful of tries.
Deep down underground inside that den, she found a journal written in her father's hand.
And these are your little shadows. They don't do a whole lot of damage.
The next day, the door to the den turned to ash.
Those should not be able to go
The girl
immune.
came up for air,
And that's
she saw
that.
the calamity all around her.
And again, that hardest wave is 8. You get the 3 melee birds. Once you can get over that, the whole thing is a joke. Alright. And just in case there were any cuts during that, we'll just show you. Shrines we're on. Alright, and that's that one. Pretty short, pretty quick. And thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one.